You can feel it in this room. How much love is flowing for those we are remembering. Each one of us holds someone close to our hearts. Many of us, one or both of our parents who we lost too soon, perhaps when we were too young, perhaps when they were just about to be able to, or just before or after they could have celebrated. And so their lives are in our keeping. The question is, how do we keep their memories alive in ways that ensure that their lives continue to be for a blessing? We say all these words all the time, but what do they mean? I'm struck often at funerals. I'm often at funerals. How impossible it is at the moment of a funeral to possibly do justice to everything and the complexity of the person. Every person's complex. But a funeral is that moment where we just are dealing with the raw emotion. We want to make sure that we get the facts right and the obituary, and that we've got the eulogies in place, and we've made all the arrangements. We're really consumed by all that immediate stuff. But then comes the really hard part, right? Moving through Shiva and Shloshim and the first year, and the years that follow. I remember my own father of blessed memory would constantly say to me the most bizarre thing that I didn't understand until he passed away. He would always say, whenever something good happened, or a happy occasion, or some achievement of one of his daughters, he would tell me how much he wanted to do a seance. A seance. Yeah, I know, Gra, it's not a very Jewish concept. Which, as I got older, I would say, Abba, that is not a very Jewish concept. And he would say, of course, I don't care. I just wish my parents were alive so they could see you, right? Become a rabbi, get married, a grandchild's bat mitzvah. And here's the other strange thing that I think we come to understand over time, is that not only does this yearning, I don't know how many of you agree with this, I'm just sharing for a couple of minutes some reflections about Yizkor, but not only does our desire to want to share things, or what would they do, or often, what would they think? My father was a professor of infectious diseases, and all through COVID, I just kept thinking, what would he say? And then there are, of course, those situations where you're glad that they didn't have to witness X, Y, or Z that's happening in the world. Each one of us lives in a time where we have to figure out what to do. But the other strange thing is how our relationships, even after they're gone, our relationships with them continue. Something else I couldn't understand until I became a mourner over years myself, and I'm still fairly new at it. Our relationships change. Sometimes we can access the things about someone that there was no place to really talk about while they were alive. They were the things that were swept under the carpet. Most families have these things that weren't really spoken about, and only in the years can we process them or understand them. And also, over the years, there's the capacity to forgive someone who we didn't even totally understand what we needed to forgive them for. But sometimes we can only understand the struggles of a person or the decisions they made, right, as we get older in our lives. Oh, I understand why my parents sacrificed that so that we could do that. Think about how much our parents or the loved ones you're thinking of now gave to us. And of course, there's also the cases of people sitting here where it's difficult to think about all the things they didn't know how to give to us, or the love that perhaps they weren't able to give, or the presence they weren't able to be, or the things they weren't able to do. For a myriad of different reasons, we come to see that they're more complicated than perhaps we knew them to be. And we also come to understand, I think, better and better over the years, the preciousness of time. Generally, we don't know how much time we have left or how much time we have left with someone. That's the human condition. We always pray that it will be more, that somehow there'll be a cure or a new treatment, or that some disaster or war won't happen. Of course. But there's a immediacy about death on Yom Kippur that makes Yizkor, I think, so powerful. We really are here on a day in this retreat, but it's also a day to face our own mortality, right? We do all kinds of things on Yom Kippur that are really kind of acting out our own day of death, including confronting for longer, many more minutes than we usually do, remembering those we've lost. We're also thinking and should be thinking about our own lives. So how do we enact this mini death? Well, we just pause every life thing that we normally do, right? We don't eat, we don't drink, we don't wear leather. We wrap ourselves in white, like burial shrouds. And we ask ourselves some tough questions. If we knew that this was our last day, what would we do? Who would we immediately call and just say, please forgive me? Who would we call and say, there's all this stuff between us, I forgive you. Let's let it go. Let's stop carrying it around. Life is too short to be burdened by all this stuff. I mean, just let it go. And if we knew that this was our last day, what would we do with our belongings? I mean, how much does it really matter anyway? My mother-in-law likes to say that in the burial shrouds, I'm sure this is a Yiddish saying, in burial shrouds there are no pockets. I think otherwise translated as, you can't take it with you. So, but what if we started just sooner in life, realizing that we're not going to take most of this stuff with us? Maybe we don't even need most of it. We probably don't. I certainly don't need most of the stuff I have. What if we started to just let go of our stuff? Gave away more money? What if we spent more time doing the things we want to be remembered for? Which is probably not watching the latest Netflix show. I mean, maybe it is, if it helps you go to sleep. Depends, I suppose. But really, wouldn't you think more carefully about that, what you're doing with your time? The great rabbinic saying that I want to leave us with for this moment is the saying that you may have heard, but we can think about it differently today. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. It's not up to us to finish every task. It's not up to us to completely fix the world in our lifetimes. But we It is up to us to do everything we can to fix one little corner of the world that we can, even if it's one garden, or we helped one person feel less alone because we visited them, we called them. I bet every single person in this room knows somebody who's alone today. Just think about calling them this evening, just to let them know that they're not totally alone. That Mishnah says it's not up to us to complete the work, but neither are we free to desist from it. Just because we can't fix it all doesn't mean we don't do what we can do. And then, of course, the last line of that, which we often forget to say, not only is the day short, our lives are so very short, but I'm sure there's a better translation than the one that's coming to mind. The master of the house is very demanding. What's a better way of translating that? I'm not sure. But God, the master of the house, the master of this place, is demanding and asking us to be more clear about what it is, about the legacies of those we're remembering that we want to keep alive, and be more clear about what our legacies will be, so that whenever the end of our days comes, we will know that we have lived it as fully as possible, that we will have filled our days with as much awareness of blessing, with as much love to give as we possibly can. May each of us be blessed with many days and a lot of strength to live out those legacies, and a lot of peace to be able to put everything else aside.